What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats of every one of the guns in Modern Warfare 2. And in today's episode, we're going to be covering the second of the pistols that was added with the Season 3 Reloaded updates. This is the GS Magna. And starting it off as always, let's have a look at our damage profile. And with this gun, it's going to be a 3 to 4 shot kill depending on the range and where in the body you're shooting them. However, if you're hitting upper torso shots, it's a 3-shot kill at any range. And to top this off, when it comes to headshots, all you need is one headshot mixed in with a shot anywhere else in the body in the maximum damage range to get a 2-shot kill. So that's pretty solid there, but unlike the semi-auto counterpart, we don't have a 1-shot headshot potential with this gun. As for our rate of fire though, this is 484 rounds per minute, and what this means is with a 3-shot kill, we're going to be killing in 248 milliseconds, which isn't terrible, but it's also not really great by any means. It is below average for most of the guns in this game. And if we drop off to a 4-shot kill, it's now going to be killing in 372 milliseconds, which is quite slow. Now, if we manage to mix headshots in and get a 2-shot kill, now our time to kill potential is really good at 124 milliseconds. So if you're really trying to squeeze out as much power as possible, you definitely want to try to mix a headshot in. After that though, let's have a look at our bullet velocity, which is the same as the 50 GS at 470 meters per second. This is very good for a handgun in this game. And now let's have a look at our ranges, and as we can see here, our guaranteed 3-shot kill anywhere in the body will extend out to about 14 meters, then our 3-shot kill anywhere in the torso will extend out to about 23 meters, and then beyond that, you are going to have to mix in upper torso shots if you want to maintain a 3-shot kill. Next, let's have a look at our Hipfire, and as we can see here, we're tied with the X13 here for having the worst Hipfire spread in the pistol category, so it definitely doesn't excel here, and you probably don't want to be hip-firing unless you're right up close and personal. And now let's have a look at our recoil, and with this gun, most of the recoil is honestly visual with the GS Magna, and it is one of those guns where you just kind of have to put your sights on target and trust that it's not kicking quite as much as it looks. However, in saying that, there is still a pretty big jump between the first and second shot fired, and this is what's often going to be throwing you off target, and especially if you're stretching that range out a little bit, you want to be aiming very low with that first shot, so that your second shot doesn't end up way over their head. After that though, let's have a look at our handling stats, and our aim down sight time is the same as the 50 GS at 210 milliseconds. It's a bit slow for a pistol, but fast for basically any other gun out there. Also, our sprint to fire time is standard for pistols at 80 milliseconds for our standard sprint out time and 160 milliseconds for our tactical sprint out time, and this is insanely fast. And then finally, for our reload add time, this is very solid at 1.3 seconds. And that's good to see because our standard magazine capacity is only 7 rounds and you burn through those very, very quickly. And then finally, for the base stats of this gun, let's have a look at our movement speeds. And across the board, our movement speeds are just a little bit below average for pistols. But in saying that, we still have very solid movement speeds if you were to compare it to basically any other class of weapon. And with that, it's now time to move into some of the unique attachments on the GS Magna. And we're going to start this off with the barrel attachments and how they impact our ranges. And as we can see here, only the last 2 barrels will impact our ranges at all. And they actually have the exact same effect on our range. They will both increase our range values by about 32%. Then let's have a look at how these barrels impact our recoil, and as we can see here, the one that helps the most with vertical recoil is the SA comp barrel by quite a noticeable margin. However, that does compress things quite a bit, and that can lead to a feeling of more horizontal recoil. But generally speaking, you can see most of these barrels will be improving our recoil at least to some degree. And then finally, for these barrel attachments, I wanted to look at how they impact our aim down sight speed, and unfortunately, all of these barrels will slow down our aim down sight speed to varying degrees, with the slowest giving us an aim down sight speed of 310 milliseconds, which is quite slow for a pistol in this game. Now, on a similar note, I wanted to take a look at the magazines and how they impact our aim down sight speeds, because especially with this gun, you probably want to be using an extended mag. You burn through those 7 rounds so quickly. So with the 10 round mag, this will slow our aim down sight speed down by only about 10 milliseconds. It's not that bad. And then the 13 round mag will slow it down by about 20 milliseconds, which again, that's really not that bad at all. And I would definitely recommend using at least one of these 2 magazine attachments. And with that, it's finally time to move into some great attachment combinations for you guys to try out. And the first one I wanted to share is my sort of all-arounder / accurate build. And this is the setup I'd use if I'm using this more as a primary weapon. A big thing with this is our aim down sight speed is going to be very, very slow. So I don't know if I'd use this as a typical secondary setup. But as a primary, you really want to be able to get that recoil under control so you can stretch out your ranges a bit with it. So with this, we have the SA Tyrant 50 barrel, the EXF 50 GS muzzle, which is also a suppressor, which will keep you off the radar, so you can play a little more stealthy with this. And that also does help with recoil as well, which is nice. We've also got the Bruin Warrior grip, the 13-round magazine, and the GS50 wood grain rear grip, which is the one that helps with aim down sight speed and sprint out time. I know if you were going for the most accurate build, you could also use the grip for recoil control here, but then our aim down sight speed would be way too slow. It's already very slow with this setup. It would be unbearably slow with that grip in my opinion. But with this, we definitely cut down on the recoil to some degree. While the total magnitude looks way higher, that's just because we have a larger magazine here. If I highlight the first 7 rounds fired with our new recoil, you can see it's definitely noticeably better than the base recoil, especially that gap between the first and second shot, which is going to cause the most problems. And on top of this, our sprint out time is improved a little bit with this particular setup. So the way I would treat this one is you want to try to get pre-aim and use that inherent mobility of a pistol to strafe around corners while aiming down sight. Or if you're right up close and personal, at least you can hip fire as you're in the process of aiming down sight in order to get those shots off extremely quickly with that fast sprint out time. So there we go, that's the first one, and you can definitely use this fairly effectively as a primary weapon. Now let's get into the second build, and I wanted to share an Akimbo build for you guys, just because this can put people down very quickly if you've got 2 guns firing at the same time. Our time to kill potential here is now going to be that 124 milliseconds, which is excellent. But with this, we're using the SA Longshot 50 barrel, the EXF 50 GS muzzle, the Bruin Warrior grip, the 13-round mag, and the Akimbo attachment on here. And then when it came to tuning, I just tuned everything away from aim down sight speed, since you can't aim down sight here. And all of that's just going to help a little bit in areas like bullet velocity, damage range, and our hipfire stats. And when we compare our new hipfire with this compared to the base hipfire, it's about 10% better. For right up close and personal, like if you're playing on shipment, for instance, or if you're just using this as a secondary to clear out close quarters buildings, this build will work just fine for that, and it will put people down very quickly as long as you don't get really unlucky with those hipfire shots. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the GS Magna. As for my thoughts on this gun, first off, I don't know why they insisted on bringing this in as an entirely new gun instead of just an attachment for the 50 GS. I think that would have made more sense, but at the end of the day, that doesn't really impact the gameplay, and you can still have just as much fun with it, whether it's a new gun or an attachment for an old gun. But when it comes to my thoughts on the performance of the GS Magna, honestly, I do think it is a lower tier pistol. I don't think it's that great. I would rather use just about any one of the other pistols in the game. That's not to say that it's not interesting and kind of a fun, sort of gimmicky weapon to use, since it just packs so much punch and it's a full auto. But if I'm looking to perform as well as possible, I'm definitely not going to be using the GS Magna. Now, of course, those are just my thoughts on this gun, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about it in those comments down below. And also, if you guys have missed any of the previous gun guides, I will leave a link to the playlist in the description of the video. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.